We were talking about CRM as an approach. CRM as an approach as opposed to an actual system. Are you aware of any CRM systems? One of the things we need to think about is how do we actually do this sort of strategy? And so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about what the market looks like in terms of these systems, because that'll give you an idea of some of the ones that we use. We can see where we are. So this is what we were looking at yesterday. And I was making the point that CRM is the core business strategy. So what it's not is it's not database marketing. It's not a marketing process or an IT thing. It's more than that. It's an overall process that uses some of these things. Now, the danger is, and I've seen this, that companies or organizations buy into the use of a CRM, spend money to buy a CRM system, and assume it's going to do for them the same as it does for somebody else. And that doesn't really work. It's not like you can pick up Microsoft Word and use it just as a tool and it works the same for you as it works for everybody else because Microsoft Word does that. Yes, you can template it and so on, but it's just a vehicle. But CRM system is different because you've got to bend and shape it to suit your organization. And one of the projects I worked on in the past, a while ago now, was actually the introduction of Salesforce as effectively a CRM, a kind of a CRM or a case management system for a large medical charity. And it didn't really work. Just my job was to run an evaluation of it to see was it working, and I couldn't really say it was doing a great job, to be honest, because it was sold almost like as this one thing that would help you, but implementing it was a completely different story. So that's part of the challenge. This is the most important point. It's that it's a mindset that you've got to bring to bear or you buy into. So effective use of CRM, if you're going to do it, means we learn more about our customers or our service users or our beneficiary or whoever. And we should become more efficient at organizing and automating aspects of our business because we know more and because we establish pathways and processes and automations and integrations between different components. For example, if we use something like Shopify as a front end or as an enabling mechanism in terms of setting stuff over the web, then what happens is there are some automated processes you built into it, and they should trigger something else and something else and something else. But it's not just saying that that's going to happen. It's how do you make it work with all of your aspects of your business? That's the challenge. So how do we become more efficient at organizing and automating our business? Recognizing that our business is different to other businesses, of course, and therefore we get to optimize customer interactions by streamlining complex interactions and processes and aiming to increase customer satisfaction. So, how was an example of that? So, one of the things I run a small environmental organization and we have a membership base and we're way behind in terms of improving it. I have a lot of work to do on that. But one of the first things we did was move it off of paper onto an online form. So, the process used to be that somebody would sign up with us, they would go to our website, they would download a form, they would fill it in, and sign it, and then they would send it on to us. And we would take it and we would implement it in our system. So what I'm saying is that one of the first things we did, we took this thing from paper. Actually, let's illustrate this. What happened, we had a paper form, which was like objects. If we looked at, we'll use one of those. They visited our website. So somebody visited our website. I haven't. I. So somebody would visit our website and they would download a form, an application form, which they would then complete this application form. Print and complete. They would post that to us. So it would post it, post in the form, at which point it would be entered into a spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the process. This is what we were doing. So somebody would visit our website, they would download a form, they would complete that form on paper, which is what we used to do. They would then post that to us, or post that to the organization, where we would get it and enter it onto a spreadsheet. So, what's the obvious improvement that could be made here? What's the obvious thing that would be easier to do? What if I showed you this? So, if I simply go here, actually, it should be evident over there, but it's not. Here we go, click there. So, this is, and we do this all the time now, don't we? It's a membership form. So, somebody clicks on this, they fill in their name, their email, their phone number, their email, their address, if they've got their air code for sending stuff by post, because we're supposed to send stuff out by post, a landline number or a mobile number that should be. Do you want to sign up to your emailing list and our GDPR, General Data Protection, General Data Protection Regulation Agreement, membership fee, add in a card number, the name of the card, submit, and it's done. Now, what happens when this happens is somebody is going straight from here onto our spreadsheet. They're cutting out this step. They're completing the form online instead of printing it and completing it. They don't have to post it. We don't have to get it. We don't have to open it. We don't have to type back into the system. This is a much better solution, and it's technology enabled, and it's pretty much normal now. So that's what we're able to do now by just leveraging technology. Now, how is that a CRM or related to CRM? It's just an example of an automation. Now, the fact is, when somebody submits their thing online, they click, they put in details, they click, then they automatically get an email from us confirming their membership, giving them a receipt. So there's that automated element straight away. So, in addition to somebody joining the organization, what happens is they straight away they get an email back, a confirmation. Now, what we haven't got to yet is giving them a membership number and access to a password to a membership site and so on. So there are other things we will need to do, but this is the way it should work. So we've introduced a couple of process changes leveraging technology, and all of a sudden, we can take memberships straight into our system. The payment is processed straight into our bank account. Back here, when they posted it and we entered into a spreadsheet, we also had to do another task, which was we'd have to go to the bank because they would be sending in a check. Do you remember? We'd have to bring it to the bank to lodge it. Has anybody else seen the check? So there's a number of steps straight away that we can eliminate and make the system much more efficient by using an online process instead of a series of manual processes. So one of the things we can do in any business is look and see, can we use these tools? Now we're jumping to that sort of a capability straight away with any new business. We should be, because the technology is there. What that means is we can be more efficient straight away. And it's almost a requirement from customers that we do that. If we don't do it, we're just not at the races. So that's where we're at. Now, that's not a full CRM, but if we were, what we would what we could be doing is, if we had a CRM, we don't in this particular organization, but in other organizations, we would have a CRM, and we would then be able to communicate directly with our customers via the CRM, or we would track our engagements with the customers. So, for example, the logical thing for us is for this to change into a database, okay, where this becomes our CRM membership database. At that point, what we would have is the ability to track all of our engagements with our new members or our customers or whatever. So when we send a membership email out, we would know. When we send out materials to somebody, we would know. If somebody rings us up with a question, we'd be able to track that. For example, we're not at the races in terms of doing this ourselves yet, because we have a membership, we have a mailing list, we've got a newsletter that goes out, an announcement that goes out, and we can track on that using MailChimp. We can track who we sent it to, whose email is valid, which bounces, who opens it. We can track where people click on, the links they click on, and so on. So we can do all of that, but that doesn't feed back into our CRM because we don't have a CRM yet. So this is going to be one of the next things we need to do, so that this whole thing becomes seamless end to end. So we can see that if Rana joins up and Rana becomes very active as a member because Rana is clicking on the newsletters, clicking on the links in the newsletters, going reading the stuff, is mentioning us on Twitter or whatever. Whereas Misha, for example, may have joined up, may not be as active, but we can see that too. This gives us some of the capability, some of the technical our technology related capability to have a much deeper relationship with our customers. Now, that's as a membership organization. That's absolutely the same in terms of a retailer or a service provider. Instead of calling our people members, our people are customers, and we should do the same thing. And we can do this with newer technology much easier. But it shouldn't be, it's not a case of just buying the technology and that's it. We need to figure out how the technology works and where it interfaces with other aspects of our business. Like I said, we now have the online form, which actually means in our case, what actually happens is, in fact, let me just copy that entire thing. What actually happens in our case is, take off this, we now have our membership database, but we also have a MailChimp. Do you guys know MailChimp? What MailChimp is this. It's an email engine. I'm not going to go show our campaigns. Obviously, everybody's emails are there, so they are obviously data protection and so on. What we can do with this is we have a mailing list of about 800 or 900 emails at this stage. In MailChimp, when you get a newsletter email, you get an email which is like a newsletter from somebody. Let me see if I got one here to show you. So here's one I got this morning. So this is because I'd signed up to the Boston Globe. So I'm on a mailing list there. And so the Boston Globe is a newspaper, sends out an email once a day. This is I don't know what that is, Stewart Healthcare. So that's obviously a business in Boston. And then there's a series of other stories there. And this is designed to get me to click to go to the Boston website. Trump's bond is reduced. Mayor of Los Angeles seeks to prove homelessness can be solved, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different things. That is basically it's a newsletter email. And at the bottom here, it probably says I can unsubscribe by clicking there. It doesn't tell me who is by, but because they've probably got a high-end subscription. But you get these sort of emails, do you? When you sign up for something? You see, it says here this mail is from a mailing list. So I can unsubscribe now. In fact, I will because I've had enough. Unsubscribe, so I'm not going to get any more emails from them. So that is as a result of some application like this, which is an email engine. So what you do is you upload your emails and your email addresses, data bank into this. It's almost like a little mini customer contacting. So you can have the name, you can have the email address, you can have phone numbers on there, although you're not sending them calls necessarily. And you can group them into groups, so we can say these emails all belong to this category, these emails all belong to this category, and you can have tags and so on. And the idea is that I can create a message and I can click a button and it goes to everybody on the list that I have selected, or everybody in the group that I've chosen which group once I put them into when I put them into groups. And it tracks what's going on so I can get a report out of it. Now, I have a bunch of customer data or members data in MailChimp as a result. But what I don't have is an ability to have these two things here talk to each other. They don't talk to each other for me yet. So that doesn't happen yet. But that should happen. And it could be that we have other sets of data in a sense. We could have it could be a Facebook page where we have followers and friends or whatever. And again, ideally, we'd have an ability to have those link to the thing as well, but that doesn't happen. So we don't have that ability yet. We haven't got that ability, but that would be the logical thing. And then we would be able to see everything that's happening and understand the different relationships. So not every customer is the same. Some are going to be active on social media. Some are going to respond to emails. Some of them just don't want to be talked to at all. Some of them will be active customers that will be buying from us regularly, and so on. So the whole idea is that we start to put these pieces together. Now, just buying a CRM system by itself doesn't work. We still need to figure out how to make it work for our business, for the channels we have, for the type of engagement we're looking to deal with. So if we look at the state of CRM, 91% of companies with more than 11 employees now use CRM. That's from a couple of years ago. If you look at the US customer relationship management market, you see that upward sliding thing here. So we're now in 2024. I don't know if this is valid or not, but here you see large businesses and then small businesses. What you should notice here, it's hard to see, but what you should notice here is that large businesses are about 2/3, 70% of the data set in terms of the market size. Whereas small businesses are now catching up. Small businesses are almost equal to large businesses in terms of the organizations using CRM. 91% of companies with more than 11 employees now use CRM. 91%, that's 9 out of 10. If we're a small company and we've got 10, 15, 20 employees and we don't have a CRM, we're in a small minority. So there's got to be a reason why companies are using it. They're using it for some benefit or other. If we look at companies with mobile versus companies without mobile CRM, so companies with mobile CRM, 65% are achieving their sales quotas, whereas companies without CRM, 75% are not achieving their sales quotas, which would indicate that CRM is becoming even more important while we're out and about or while we're having access to mobile communications, or that our CRM is enabled on mobile devices with apps and so on. And that, of course, makes sense because this is now everything we're doing is now via the phone. So ideally, if our customer has the phone in their pocket all the time, some of you might actually be looking at this class on a mobile, are you? It's okay if you are. You're on the laptop. But in the past, if you were out and about, you might be accessing it. Or you may access your content, your Google Classroom on the mobile, mightn't you? Or the app, depending which app we're using at the moment. And you will probably access your email, right? On your phone. If our customers are fully enabled on mobile, then it makes sense that our relationship management with those customers should be mobile enabled as well. So that clearly says that this is where we should be over here. In terms of whether we use it on premises, 2008 to today, in the past, CRM systems were sitting on a box in the business place, whereas now, much more, what we see it's all cloud based stuff, which again ties into the app and the mobile and everything else. So everything is cloud based. So it's a big problem if we lose all electricity, everything is in the server farms, and we can't get access to information. We're in deep trouble. So that gives an idea of the use of CRM, which we're getting into. I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots from one shortly. What are we using? So these are the things we're using as CRM. Now, this is changing. And I think if you look at the top line, Outlook and Excel, Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, people were using that as their primary piece, or Gmail. We're going to see a shift away from those things more and more. Excel is still useful. So our membership list, actually, when we get the stuff in on a form, we export and I open it in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet. I can't stay like that. We're going to have to move into one of the dedicated applications. So it could be Salesforce down here, 6% of the market. HubSpot is an integrator for your social media channels. MailChimp, I showed you. Some businesses operate purely on paper, which we want to get away from. ACT is a sales database. I'm not sure. Homegrown means people have built their own, something using something on Oracle, Microsoft, or Oracle is another one. I don't know what Sugar's another brand, but I've no awareness of. What's been happening is that Salesforce and MailChimp and HubSpot and some other applications have been growing in usage. And we see this happening in lots of different ways, including in terms of work management. Are any of you using something like Trello or Asana or Monday.com as a sort of task manager? Trello, okay. So that's an idea, that sort of mechanism illustrates what some of the possibilities are. CRM system is really just a similar type of application, just focused on CRM. And of course, these things are going to start joining up. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So the largest share of the digital marketers' wallet goes to email marketing. So as a result of having this capability, we see things like Microsoft Dynamics, which is another application. Now, to be honest, I've never looked at Microsoft Dynamics, so I'm not familiar with it. But it is that ability to do that sort of engagement with customers and to feed this huge element of marketing, which occurs via email. There's a reason that's so powerful. If you think about it, what's you have your name, you have your identity, you may have a passport, and that's unique to you. The other thing that is not almost unique, but which you define for yourself and which is really useful is, of course, your email address. So, how many email addresses have you guys got? I'm trying to work out how many I have. One, two, three, four, three, three. I've got one, two, three. Yeah, three. I'm sure there's another one. So three main ones. Three mains that I'm using. So most of us have more than one now at this stage. We should only have one, but we have one for the business, we have one for college, or we have one for private or whatever. My point is, it's our choice, and we use that as a way to focus on what we're doing. When we give that to a business or to a store or to a retailer, what we're doing is we're enabling that engagement on that email address. But from the business's point of view, it means they have a direct line to us. They can communicate directly with us. So it's really powerful. Yes, they can communicate with us on social media as well, but in the main, what they're trying to do is to, and the main how social media is going to work is it's unless we give them our social media by liking or whatever, or by following, it's more hit and miss in terms of their engagement with us. So social media is good too. Mobile marketing in terms of mobile phones, apps, we're going to see that sort of shift into being more app-based. Search engine optimization using Google, playing our Facebook or Instagram in terms of paid ads and so on. Our display advertising, our trade shows and events. This is where marketing dollars have been going over the last while. Now, these stats are based on 2020, but what we can see here is the power or the importance of email marketing. Email marketing has become the primary tool for lots of businesses. And if you just look at the last line of the paragraph, so emails consistently high rated ROI of $51 return on every dollar spent. That means it's a very cost effective form of marketing. In other words, for every dollar we spend marketing using email, we're getting an ROI of $51 compared to other types of marketing. Email marketing, because it's that direct link to your email or my email, because we've given it to somebody, is almost like a warm contact. We told them we're interested by giving them our email. And as a result, this is why email works, email marketing works. I think what we're going to see is over the next 5 to 10 years is as we get into this, what we're going to see more and more is the use of apps. Now, I suppose the problem will be becoming we'll have so many apps, it's how do we cope with them all? But an app is an even more direct engagement with somebody because we have the app on their phone. We can see when they're using the app. We can put more information, more engagement. We can enable the app to do different things. So I showed you yesterday the loyalty card. What other apps have I got? I have this one here. So this is a booking app. It has an advertisement to start, but the advertisement goes. And then I have my golf booking for enabling me to book a tee time at the golf club I play at. So it doesn't sound like much, but that app is a service to the golf clubs themselves, but the golf club is able to use that as a way of managing my interaction of the key resource. And they can see what I'm doing and they can see how often and they can work out what type of people are playing, etc., etc. So we have all of these different things. So when we look at CRM, there are some obvious suppliers. There's Salesforce, as I mentioned. There are some more out here, which I'm not as familiar with. There's Microsoft Dynamics. SAP is one for big business that big businesses use. Oracle's another one. Adobe, I'm not as familiar with. Zendesk, in Zendesk, you may have heard of. It's a bit like HubSpot. So there are these different CRM applications in the marketplace, and this is as of 2018, so they will all be there today. If we look at the global spend, $48.2 billion in 2018. So that's a big market as it stands, and it's only getting bigger. Forecasted percentage spend on SaaS CRM. So SaaS is software as a service, which means it's not on a box or a data server in your building, it's in the cloud. So 75% is that forecast will be spent on SaaS types of CRM, so everything is moving to the cloud. 80 billion is the projected CRM market by 2025. I think that's a lie. I think it'll be more than that, and partly because we've had large inflation. 41% from the top, 41.2% combined market share of the top 5 CRM vendors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, some more than that. It looks like it's more than 50%. So I don't by that. 19.5% market share held by Salesforce. Salesforce is the biggest one. Here's some more information. 84% of the companies surveyed have under 1,000 employees, with the greatest concentration between 1 and 500 employees. So in terms of companies using CRM, we said 91% of companies with over 11 employees were, right? But the biggest share are 84% of companies surveyed have under 1,000 employees. Greatest concentration between 1 and 500. So up to there is where most companies are using CRM. And then larger companies. Now, obviously, larger companies have many more employees, so they could have a CRM that's used by 100,000 people, but it's counting as one in this chart. But so it doesn't really influence the shape. Illustrate is that CRM has a very powerful potential impact for smaller businesses because they're able to automate tasks, which enables them to compete more with the large companies who have the resources to put in big systems, big bespoke systems. And that's one of the benefits of some of these CRM systems, is it gives that sort of integrated, fast capability to a smaller business as long as you use it right. So what is CRM? We had this before. It's this core business strategy. There are strategic, operational, analytic, and collaborative versions of this, but ultimately, it's an approach in the business. The danger is we slip into talking of CRM as a system when it's more than that. The system is only the enabling part. We need to buy into it, which is why we could look at something like the IDEC or the IDEC model. IDEC model. Anyway, this is developed by Peppers and Rogers and featured in a number of books. It suggests that companies take 4 actions to build closer relationships with customers: identify, differentiate, interact, customize. Identify, differentiate, interact, customize. So identify who your customers are, get to identify your customer, get to know them, learn about them so we can get a better understanding about them, which means capturing their information, which is why something like yesterday we talked about the customer value optimization piece is about this idea of building that relationship with the customer. So identify them, capture information about them, then differentiate amongst your customers. So all your customers are not the same. So on the one hand, we want to identify and capture all that information, and then we want to segment our customer base, differentiate them into. There are different ways of doing this. I don't agree just with this. Identify which customers have most value now and which offer most for the future. That could be one way of doing it. Which customers are interested in this activity or this business stream and which are interested in that one. And once we start to do that segmentation, straight away we have the ability to communicate different messages according to that segmentation. So if we stick with the differentiator our customers according to who's the most value now versus which offers most for the future, we might have a different approach in our engagement. The ones who have most value now, we want to make them aware of what we have available. We want to show them the value we can add to them so that if they're going to be valuable to us now, that we're building that relationship right now. But over here, we might have other customers who we think will be more valuable to us in the future. And what we want to do is we want to nourish that relationship. We want to deepen that relationship without putting too much pressure on it now, so that they become more valuable to us in the now, in the future. So the idea of differentiating means that we're able to shape different messages for different customers because we've identified them, because we know them, because we've been able to group them differently. That's the interact. We interact with these customers to ensure we understand their expectations, as well as their relationships with other brands and suppliers and so on, but also be able to show them that we know what they want. So we interact according to the differentiation that we've made. And then we can customize our communication and also our customer offerings to ensure that we meet their expectations because we know more about them. So the classic example, and you know who does this? Now, we tend not to trust these things, but Amazon or Apple Music or Spotify or Google to a certain extent, because they're learning about us using these algorithms all the time, they're able to show us things that they think we might like as a result. So if I go to Netflix, what I see on Netflix as being recommendations from me might be different to recommendations for you. because you have a different engagement with the system, and the system is learning about you all the time. So the system is identifying you, it's differentiating you into. So what we get presented with will depend on our interactions today because the system is learning, as I said. So that customize the offers to us. And on Amazon, it's yes, people who are interested in this product that you're interested in have also bought these products here. So this is how some of these things work. If we look at this on a broader scale, I call this the Star Trek model. It's a bit like a starship, right, from Star Trek. So this is far too complex for us to get into in too much detail. If we look at this part here first, what we're saying is there's an external environment where the customers live, obviously, and their interaction with us gives them a customer experience. There's our infrastructure in terms of our processes, our technology, and our customer information that we've acquired. And our people rely on this, our team use this infrastructure to manage customers' activity. So the customer experience is what we do as a result of using this stuff and what we know of the customer. So that customer activity, we could be looking at a whole range of different things. But if you look at this sort of cycle, so we might be targeting our customers, looking to convert them onto doing something or using a product or whatever. We may start with the welcome, getting to know them. We may deliver some basic stuff. We do some retention work, trying to keep them as a customer. We look to value to expand that value within the customer value optimization. If they've got a problem, we solve their problem wherever possible. We try and win them back if they want to leave us. We might do some specific targeting for them in different ways. As go on, we might realize that they're moving into a different bracket and we look to convert them again. So there's this sort of cyclical stuff that we do, which is all geared towards being efficient with our customers, but it's about trying to acquire customers, to grow our space in the market, and then to retain customers. That's what all of this stuff over here is about. And it's supported by ongoing analysis and planning based on what we know about the market. It's supported by the customer proposition that we present to our customers based on what we know about them. And we're continually measuring our activities and our engagement with them that feeds back into our database to enable us to grow our activity. So this is a very complex model, but if you just take the time to go through it, what you see is identify, differentiate, interact, and customize, just in more broad terms. Now, we've talked about a CRM. So what might one look like? This is a version of a CRM. So this is a screen print I took from somewhere. I think it's from a training course on, I think this particular app was aimed at charity organizations, and it was called Thank You, I think was the name. And the idea behind this CRM was for charity organizations with donor bases to capture their donor information and to manage that donor engagement. Because for a charity, a donor is your customer. You might be providing support, you might be giving aid, you might be solving a problem here, but who pays for that is your donors. Your donors give you resources to do that thing. So they are, in effect, your customer. And what we want to do is to manage that donor experience so they keep giving to us. So the donor lifetime value. It's a very cynical way of thinking about it in one sense, but actually, if you take the positive, what you're saying is you have an interest in this cause. We're solving a problem. You can work with us by giving us money and support so that we can solve the problem. And it's still managing that relationship. So in this particular case, you might have a list of the different customers, and they all have their own donors. They have to become a donor to get their own account. And if you look across the top, it's not, I mean, make this a bit bigger. But what you see is details, addresses, relationships, contact preferences, comms, education, employment, income. So these are various information table or screens on these individuals. So for example, details would be Mr., Mrs., maybe gender if we capture that, maybe date of birth if we captured, our age group or age band or something. So some general, very general basic demographic stuff. Addresses, where they are, what their contact details are. Relationships, if they have relationships within our database. So if we know that somebody is a brother of this or is a sister of this, and we can capture that information, because that means we can see cross relationships between our customer base. Seems a bit big brotherish, but that's possible. Contact preferences, if they've told us they don't want calls from us or emails from us. Comms would be a separate table where we see all of the interactions, maybe calls from or emails to or emails responded to. This is very sophisticated. This is the problem with some of these systems. They go too much into too much detail, really. Education, employment details, income brackets, if we have that information now. And the idea is that we can click on any one of these and we would see their records in our system. That's an example of the database. To set this up means you've got to spend a bit of time to set up all the fields that you want to track and the connections and parameters within it. So the system can help you with that, but you shouldn't underestimate the time effort to actually do that. So we had the system in one organization and we never really understood how much we could do with it. The real strength in this is not this little piece of information. It's then how do you run a report? So how would we run a report that says what we want to do is to identify all of our donors, for example, all of our customers who have not purchased anything for us or not given us money in 6 months. And what we want to do is we want to pull some sort of report so we can identify that base and we could use them for a campaign. We're going to run a campaign to see can we attract them back to being a customer, right? To encourage them to give us money again or whatever. But we're doing that because we're able to run a report by selecting and choosing and filtering so that we get to a small number. The aim of this is not to have a big number, it's to have a very specific group that we can send a specific message to or a specific engagement. The power of that is almost like personalization because the more we can specify, the more personal the communication. The more personal the communication, the greater the likelihood we get a response and an engagement. And this is the secret behind it. The more we buy into the CRM mindset, the more we learn, the more we build a relationship, the more specific we can get with you and with somebody else. This is called the power of one. If we do our job right, we can almost get to a situation where we could be sending out an email campaign to people, but we have structured the campaign. It's a bit like a mail merge. So the campaign will use specific messages for specific types of people in our database. And if we do our job right, we can drive that down so we have almost specific messages for each individual person. And that's quite an ask. But the idea is if we know that this 20% of our database are interested in football, we might include a football metaphor in some of the text. And that metaphor will go to these people. But we know there's another 20% who are interested in tennis, that instead of a football metaphor, we'll use a tennis metaphor. Then it's almost like a mail merge. Do you know what mail merge is? This is something that we've been able to do for a while using Microsoft Word, for example. So we would write a letter and you would put some fields in that letter. So the name field, the address field, the city field, let's say the account balance field. Let's say your bank will do this. And you write this letter text, you put these fields in, and then you've got a database where you've got Shane, address, city, balance, my details. And then we've got Rana, address, city, balance, and so on. And then you run a small program, click a button basically, and what it does is it meshes the letter text with the database and it puts into the database, dear, name is dear Shane, my address, your balance is. Dear Rana, your address, your balance is. And it becomes a bespoke, a unique letter because the content is unique to the addressee, just like you get on an email. But if you can do that, think about the power of that. What we are now in a position to do is say, if we manage our database, right, and we structure our messages, what we can say is, if this person has this value, send them this text. So we could write our letter with basically fields in it, elements that change depending on what the customer thing is. And this is how we get customized offers by email or whatever in our mailbox, by using this data piece with this power of the engine. And it works both ways, because the other thing is when somebody replies, that answer should automatically be in their file. So the other idea is if Sally, for example, rings up, or if Misha rings up or contacts us, we can say, actually, look, we saw you came back on that date. You had this question. Listen, I'm really sorry we didn't get back to you, but let me give you the answer to that now. And you're able to have that sort of relationship because we've got the stuff on the system in front of us. This is the power of doing this stuff effectively. We get to build a relationship, we get to have a different sort of understanding, and we get to engage with our customers on a much better basis. So it helps us with this idea of the customer lifetime value. Remember we talked about this before? Our customer base will be split across sort of, this is a very simple analogy here, 20% non-profitable, 60% profitable, and 20% very profitable. So part of the challenge is us figuring out where our customers fit. And of course, we want to do everything we can to keep these customers here. Now, there'll be a small number, but they'll be very valuable to us. So we need to spend to really look after these customers. We want to look after these as well. And these ones which are not profitable, we either need to do one of two things. We need to make them into profitable customers, or we need to get them out. But we don't know that until we start to analyze our customer database. And this is where the power of the system becomes much more useful, because it's not just then using this data for this or this approach. It's then we can engage with our customer base to manage our customers according to their importance and their value, or their potential value. Sounds a bit cynical, but again, it's about trying to figure out where's our investment best placed. Should we be doing all of our service for our non-profitable customers? They're not really profitable, then maybe we don't want them as customers. We need to make them into customers that are profitable so that we can build a relationship because we're solving their problem as well as making a profit off of it. Or we should say, you need to be somebody else's non-profitable customer. This is the and this sort of shapes some of the processes that we implement as a result. So, for example, customer retention. Customer retention is really important. If we put money into acquiring a customer, we want to keep that customer. If we lose that customer, it's very hard to get them back. And we've lost the investment we made trying to acquire the customer. Anyway, we're up against time, folks. We'll pick this up. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.